welcome to today's episode of the Balanced Approach podcast. I'm your host, Louis Padian. I hope that you're doing well and are enjoying the podcast and the topics we've covered so far. These podcasts are released every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, so be sure to subscribe wherever you are listening to be kept up to date. So today we will be discussing why walking is one of the things that I often recommend or focus on with patients and clients. And there's a huge array of reasons for this. A lot of it supported by research, but on the surface, there's a lot of things that make walking really appealing. First of all, it's the accessibility and affordability. It's one of the things that's free. It doesn't require any equipment apart from a pair of shoes and can be done almost anywhere. And that makes it really, really good for making it a sustainable option long term, especially for things like weight management, improving health. It's also low impact. So again, it's one of the things that's going to be a bit easier on people who might be a bit older, who have poorer fitness levels, who aren't used to high levels of physical activity, or who are new to exercise or potentially have injuries. And last but not least as well, it's one of the things that's measurable. So measuring steps, it's again accessible because a lot of people's phones, people's watches will pick up the amount of steps that they're doing. And walking is a great proxy for people's overall physical activity levels during the day. So people who are walking more will be doing more in general with regards to moving their body, which is going to help us especially if we're looking at the energy balance side of things, that steps correlate well with sort of calorie burn. They're not perfect, and often people's watches and phones, if they're telling you how many steps you've done and they're saying this is how many calories you burnt today, it might be off by a certain percentage, but it'll be consistently off most of the time. So if you are using that to calculate your energy expenditure and then tracking all your food, they're both imperfect ways to do that, but they will help you get an idea of where your energy balance levels are and then help adjust your food if you're trying to lose weight, maintain, or even gain weight long term. So a really, really useful tool because it's accessible and affordable, low impact, and can help with making things measurable as well. But beyond that, when we're looking at the research, walking's impact or link with weight management is probably not as massive as people think. It depends on the individual massively, but when we're looking at the data, some of it's coming out around 1.5 kilos. It has an impact, or it shows people that are able to lose over 3 pounds worth of weight, and it's one of the things that people might expect a bit more of an impact from. But obviously, when we're looking at lifestyle changes, we're not putting all our hopes on, right, I'm trying to lose weight and I'm just going to start walking more. Potentially would be looking at improving their sleep, managing their stress levels a bit more, improving their diet, and all these things overall probably have a more impactful outcome on their weight, BMI, and health outcomes. So whilst it's not as impactful as probably people think, where they're going to drop 5 kilos just from increasing their steps, it's still meaningful, but it's about that consistency and that sustainability as well, and allows us to do it each day, which makes it really, really useful. As I've said, it's really useful. It's one of the things that actually is really important for people who have lost significant amounts of weight over a long period and helping them maintain it as well, maintain that weight loss. So being consistently physically active and walking more tends to be one of the tools that people focus on. People who are high body weight, it probably has a bigger impact on because they are moving more body weight or moving more mass, which burns more calories. But it depends on so many factors, like I said, starting weight, overall activity levels, and their eating as well. Some people might focus on walking a bit more each day, which is fantastic for so many other reasons, which we'll go into a second. But they might not put any focus on their eating habits, and potentially the increased activity is going to increase their appetite. Therefore, they might not see any weight loss because they're probably going to be eating more. Walking is a great tool for actually burning calories, as we've said. There's a relationship there, and people are actually surprised about the amount of calories you can burn just for going for a walk. So a 70 kilo person walking at what we'd call a fairly moderate pace of 3 miles per hour for half an hour will burn about 150 calories. So if you're trying to get in regular breaks in throughout the day, 3 lots of 10 minutes, 150 calories if you're a 70 kilo person. If you're a bigger person, it'll be more calories. And if you're getting in more than 30 minutes, then you're going to be burning more. So again, it's that correlation between increasing physical activity increases energy output. And if weight loss is on the focus, then actually it can be a really useful tool. It's about trying to reduce sedentary activity as well, or focusing on ways that we can increase activity throughout the day. So things like parking further away from where you're going, so getting off a stop early on the bus, or finding more ways to improve your physical activity throughout the day. Using the stairs instead of getting the lift, going for a walking meeting rather than a seated meeting. All these things can help improve your steps throughout the day and be really useful tools. Beyond weight loss, reduce risk of chronic diseases. Regular walks can lower blood pressure, improve insulin sensitivity, and reduce the risk of things like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and some cancers as well. So again, it's not just looking at the weight loss impacts. It's looking at, if we're looking to try and lose weight, it plays a part of the puzzle, or is part of the puzzle to focus on. Also, the benefits beyond that, reducing the risk of certain things like type 2 diabetes and cancers, and improving your blood sugar control if you're pre or type 2 diabetic, or even if you're not. These things are hugely beneficial for overall health and well-being. Another big part of it as well is improved mental health. Again, going for a walk helps people with managing their stress, helps with cognitive function as well, improving their mood, and can really, really be useful for when people are feeling overwhelmed. Just going for a short walk, getting outside in nature. I read about a concept the other day, and it was called forest bathing, which I think is a Japanese concept, and about spending time in nature. And that again is linked with improved mood as well. Like I said, even though it's a low impact activity, it's correlated with stronger bones and muscles. So strengthening your bones, strengthening your muscles, promoting overall mobility, and reducing the risk of things like falls. There was a great paper in 2013, I think it was, by a guy called Bauer et al., which means and colleagues, which was called the Protage study, and it was looking at protein and its link with how we should be increasing the elderly to eat more protein. And a big part of that was reducing the risk of falls by increasing muscle mass and stability, improving recovery from hospital. There's so many things that it has an impact or a ripple effect on. And it's the same with walking as well. People who are walking and more active each day are probably going to have stronger, more mobile joints. They are able to manage their body in risky situations like stairs or near ledges maybe a little bit better. And again, it's just another thing that can help with people managing their health a little bit better. So there are all the reasons why I think it's a wonderful thing to focus on. But if you sat in front of me going, right, you sold me on it, what do I need to do, Louis? And I'd say start small, with all goals, with all sustainable and things that we want to do long term. It's about starting small and gaining that momentum and confidence and competence with it. So don't overwhelm yourself with the 10,000 step goal. We'll discuss that in the next few episodes around where that's come from, if it's a useful thing. But even just a modest increase, a 2018 review found that just a modest increase in daily steps can be beneficial for health, especially for those starting from what we'd call a sedentary lifestyle where you don't move much. Increasing your steps by 500 to 1,000 steps per day can be a really useful goal, and people often snigger at starting small. They feel like it's too easy and they could do more. Well, if it's too easy, show me that it's too easy and do it consistently, because I guarantee that thing that you think is too easy to do each day, actually the hardest thing to do is turn up each day and do it. It's not necessarily the thing, it's dedicating time and effort and headspace and remembering to do it as well. So if you'll figure out where you're starting out in your baseline, focus on measuring, monitoring and managing where you currently are now. If it's at 1,000 steps, awesome. Let's try and aim for 1,500 or 2,000 steps on average per day. And again, we're taking that average because life happens, but days we might have more time, some days where we might have a bit less activity, and trying to focus on building it throughout the day. Again, that leads on to the second bit, and it's finding hidden little pockets throughout the day where we can build it in as well. So instead of feeling that, I'm focused on trying to get for a walk for 20 minutes each day, instead of building up to 20 minutes, actually break it up into 4 or 5 minute walks and focus on where that walk's going to be, or it might be a 10-minute walk in 2 5s. And research by Renatel in 2019 indicates that interrupting long periods of sitting with short walk breaks can benefit health regardless of total step count. So if we're taking the focus away from the amount of steps that we're trying to do, just long periods of sitting don't seem to be very good for us. So having little reminders set on your phone, having periods of work, focused work, using the Pomodoro or Pomodoro, I can't remember what it is, the 25-minute and 5-minute break rule, using that setup to focus on that task at hand, but then also getting away and taking that time away can be really, really useful. So again, trying to get up every 30 minutes, every 45 minutes, ideally if you can get up every 30 to 45 minutes, that'll be really useful. But even if it's just every hour to start with, again, go for a short walk outside, maybe do a task somewhere else and walk there, maybe put the bins out, those sorts of things. Those little pockets of activity are super important for overall health and well-being. Next up, I always try and do this with a new habit or behaviour, is to try and make it enjoyable. So potentially having somebody that you go for your walk with, if it's someone that you might sit down, have lunch with, have a really nice chat with at lunch, maybe going for a walk for 10-15 minutes during your lunch with them and having a chat. Social support, especially when we're trying to get a new activity, is really, really huge for motivation. And studies show that walking with a friend or a family member can make walks more enjoyable and increase people's ability to adhere to them. So increase people's chance of being able to stick to it long term. So grab a friend, grab a family member, grab a co-worker for a walk, a lunchtime stroll, whatever, but just get out and try and make it as enjoyable as possible. And linked in with enjoyability is potentially with that enjoyability as well is trying to find new places or nice places to go. If you're in the cities, it can be really hard, but trying to find little pockets of green. Again, that forest bathing is linked with better health outcomes and better improved mood, managing stress. So again, whilst we want to make sure this habit's embedded and try and do it consistently, make your routes a bit interesting. Try and take different routes if you can. Avoid making it really monotonous, because we know monotony is just going to make it less likely to stick long term. And plan your routes. Make sure you've got an idea of where you're going. Make sure they're safe. Explore new places with a friend. Find a scenic trail. I use an app called All Trails, which is free, and I think OS Maps is another one as well that you can download, and it just allows you to find walks potentially nearby. So again, just see what's on your doorstep, see what's around, explore, try and make it enjoyable, explore a little bit, and it will help with being more active as well. Next up is tracking your progress. Again, if you can measure it, you can monitor it, you can manage it. So give yourself a little chart, put it on the wall, track your steps each day for an aim for a certain amount. So again, Monday to Friday for the first week, you might be aiming for just 1,000 steps a day. Awesome. Whatever it is, try and do it consistently, and then go, right, next week I'm going to try and aim for 1,250. Just an extra 250 steps a day or an extra 500 steps a day. It builds that motivation in there and makes it really interesting, makes you a bit more competitive about it as well. It's not a perfect metric, but it can provide useful information. It's a valuable tool, increasing physical activity. So again, use it for motivation. Keep it somewhere. If you keep it on your phone. I know one of the things when I've run groups before on my group platforms is there's potentially a way to, you can have like a leaderboard and steps as part of that. So we might have people competing against themselves, not against the group, but to be more active each day, because I think it is a really useful tool to use. So with all that, you can probably see why I think walking is a great tool. So big part or big takeaways from it: consistency is key. Aiming for, if you can, 30 minutes of walking or moderate activity each day, even if it's just 5-10 minutes at a time. It's all worthwhile. It's all good for your overall health and well-being. Like we said, it's correlated with not massive but significant improvements in weight, but also lots of positive health outcomes, like reduced risk of type 2 diabetes, improving blood pressure and sensitivity, mental health. There's just so many benefits to it as well, and it's something that's affordable, accessible. It's easy to be consistent with because you can do it most places, if not everywhere. And just by incorporating these tips and gradually increasing your daily steps, you can again create a sustainable walking routine, and that can support with your weight management, your overall health and happiness long term. So definitely something worth considering. And like I said, once you've got more confident with it, more comfortable, increase the amount of distance, the amount of steps, the intensity, the difficulty to suit your goals. But it's a great tool and one that I'd highly recommend you looking into. So there you have it. Thank you very much for listening to today's episode of the Balanced Approach podcast. If you have any questions, queries, or would like to reach out to me, please do. I am at Louis Padian Nutrition, which is at LOUISPADIAN Nutrition on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and all other social media platforms. If you're looking for support in achieving your goals and living a healthier, happier, and more balanced life in the process, click the link below and inquire about working with me. Remember to subscribe to the Balanced Approach podcast wherever you're listening for more insightful episodes, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.